First, God gave Abraham a great nation. Then Moses saved the people from the slavery in Egypt. And Joshua commanded the Israelites into the land that was promised to them, and everyone was happy. But after a while, the Israelites got bored and begged Samuel for a king. God told them it was a bad idea, but he let them make their own mistake anyway. And Saul becomes the first king, but he ignored God's instructions. It turns out Saul was pretty insane, so Samuel anointed David instead. And Saul was jealous and fearful, because David defeated the superhuman Goliath, and Saul was weak. But in his rage, he tried to kill David and take back the throne. He fails, but David spares his life because he's a nice guy like that. And then Saul dies anyway from natural causes. And David becomes the official king and takes the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem, and thus the city of David is founded. And later, Solomon inherits the throne. He didn't know what he was doing until God appeared to him in a dream and gave him the wisdom to lead the Israelites. And Solomon built the temple in Jerusalem, so God had a home in the city. But he gained the ability to manipulate people, and like all kings of his era, was corrupted by his love for women, gold, power, and wisdom. And like all kings, Solomon eventually dies. After that, everyone fights with each other for a few hundred years, and the desert is divided into northern Israel and southern Judah. Elijah, Elisha, and Hosea rose up to be prophets against the bad kings, but they couldn't stop the chaos, and Israel is destroyed. Judah held on longer, but was doomed for failure as well. Prophets Isaiah and Jeremiah struggled to call Judah back to God. And God told Jeremiah to go to the potter's house to hear his message. The potter's vessel was messed up, so he simply started over and molded a new vessel. Then Jeremiah realized that if we allow it, God can do that with us. And Jeremiah warned Judah, but it still fell in 586 to King Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians. The city was destroyed and the Israelites were exiled. God and his people were homeless. Like all previous empires, Babylon's reign comes to an end when Nebuchadnezzar dies. But then the king of Persia takes control. One woman by the name of Esther had a plan. She was really hot, and the Persian king was intrigued. During a meal, he granted her one wish for anything she wanted. She wished that the king would not kill those in exile, and the people of Judah were allowed to return home. Her wish was granted, and over many years, the people returned to their demolished city. Back in Jerusalem, Ezra started to write the scripture to remind everyone about Egypt and the kings, and Nehemiah started to make reforms and motivate everyone to rebuild their city and their faith. Throughout the scripture, prophets provided a message of hope that God had it under control. But 400 years later, the Romans showed up and they still had a king. And about that time, this dude John showed up to prepare the way for a different kind of king,